all the people within the craft beer community are fantastic people, and they're great fun to hang out with, and you're normally drinking beer when you're hanging out with them.
Manitoba is about to experience a craft beer boom. Some people are so dedicated they're making weekly podcasts and blogs just about local beer. Right now, there's already 7 breweries: Torque, Barnhammer, Little Brown Jug, Farmery, Peg Beer Co, Half Pints, and Fort Garry. There's 3 more about to open: One Great City, Brazen Hall, and Nonsuch. Manitoba has some great barley and one of the world's largest malt producers, Canada Malting. Just a few years ago there were no hop farms. Now there's 3: Prairie GEM, Lockport, and Prairie Mountain Hop Farms.
We're in the finishing stage for construction, so paint's going on the wall obviously, a little bit of mudding and taping left. Flooring will be going down sometime late next week, and then we can start bringing equipment in, so everything's pretty much getting finalized as far as the millwork that's going to be installed and everything else, so we're near the end.
We each saw where the markets were in Toronto and Vancouver respectively, and where they were going and growing every year. I think we each found a lot of attachment and appreciation going to the new local breweries right by us that you can walk to, and we saw that it was lacking here, and we knew that when both the MBL and the province opened those regulations up, there was a huge opportunity. So for me, and tying into my hospitality background, it was a perfect fit.
Well, the real prime time was between the 1860s and the turn of the century. There, I think, Dave, we counted about 20 different breweries, and that's locations because they all went under different names here and there. Out of all those breweries, the only 2 that became really successful were Drury's, which was on Redwood and Main, and Shays, which was across the street from the legislative building. Well, it's kind of like happening again, where you've got all these breweries or new breweries, these microbreweries are starting up.
This front section right here would be the retail store, and the way we've designed it is the retail store is adjacent to the cooler, and it's one big cooler because that's where we're storing the beer. So in this back corner over here, there's actually going to be the kitchen and the open kitchen as well, and then that wall that's half built there, that's actually the boiler room. That's going to be partly inside of the brew house. The brew house is almost all along that back wall over there. There's going to be large tempered glass windows so that you can see the brew house from every seat in the restaurant. Far corner over there, you're going to have spots raised up about 1 foot. It's just going to be kind of a place for if you want to have a more private event. It feels a little bit separate. What's going right here, this is actually the bar area that you're looking at right here. This is where we're putting our water closets, our commodes, our lavatories, our loos, our little boys' room, little girls' room, whatever you'd like to call them.
It's not the first craft beer boom, but I think that the way that craft beer has developed across Canada recently, there's been a significant shift that we haven't seen before. There's been a little bit of a renaissance, I guess I would say, in craft beer. And Winnipeg has a lot of population and hasn't been very well tapped. Like if you take a city like Vancouver or something like that, they have about 100 breweries just in Vancouver alone. And a place like Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is a town smaller than Brandon, they've got about 7 or 8 breweries. And while I'm not saying every single one of those breweries is going to be successful, those people who are actually putting the effort in to connect with the community, produce beer that is really good, and taking feedback from people trying their beer and advancing and moving forward, those are the ones who are going to be successful. And anyone who's just kind of trying to capitalize on the craft beer boom and come in and make money by producing as much beer as quickly as they possibly can, those are the ones that I think are going to have a bit of a harder time.
Lagers and ales, what's the difference? Basically, it comes down to yeast. One makes lagers, one makes ales. Lagers ferment at cold temperatures, around 19 and 15 degrees. Between aging and fermenting, it can take almost 3 times as long to make a lager. Ales ferment at warmer temperatures, around 16 to 22 degrees. Ales can ferment in a few days and don't need as much time to mature. A good tasting ale might only take 8 or 9 days. The word lager in German means to cold age something. Lagering is the process of aging beer at near freezing temperatures. Lagers are typically more carbonated and milder tasting than ales. Ales typically have more body and flavor than lagers. Both types of beers can be anywhere from a golden pale to a deep black.
In my past life, I was a corporate securities lawyer on Bay Street in Toronto. So while John has sort of got the restaurant experience and definitely the chef experience, I'll sort of be wearing many hats, administrative, working in the brewery, payroll, accounting, making sure we're on side with all the legislation, that sort of thing.
Always been my dream to come back to Winnipeg and open a restaurant here locally, and put myself in a position to do that over the years. And Tim approached me with this project about 2 years ago, looking for a partner, and we sort of dipped our toes in the water to see where it would take us, and here we are today.
I think if we can make it through this, we can make it through anything. I mean, we haven't killed each other yet, so it's been a good process. I think having a partner that has an opposite skill set than you do, that excels where you don't, is very important. And that's hard to find. Certainly someone that's willing to commit the same amount of times and have the same drive as you isn't something you find every day.
I think the reason that I love beer so much is how simple it is and how complex it is at the same time. Like, all beer styles essentially start with the same exact ingredients depending what you're doing. You know, you've got water, yeast, malt, and hops, but the variations on all four of those things are so crazy big, and the different additives that you can throw in there and the different techniques that you can use for brewing and how water chemistry comes into play. I think that just makes beer a really unique and interesting drink.
Since about September, October of 2015, that's when John left his work and I folded up my practice in Toronto.
And it's got to be a full-time job. It's not something you can do part-time as a brewery or a restaurant owner. I mean, you have to live and breathe it. And Tim says we were doing it 20 hours part-time, but that was on top of us each working 70 hours a week. So it was, part-time is the term to use there, but really we were doing close to 90-plus hours a week in the beginning stages to get this up and off the ground.
There's a lot of time away from your family and your loved ones, and you just kind of hope that they're patient, and John and I have been very lucky they are, and you just try and make sure it's all worth it in the end. If you're going to start your own business, I think there's probably a point for every entrepreneur where you have to go all in and you have to risk everything, and that really probably helps to separate the wheat from the chaff in a lot of cases. And really, when you have that basis, that's what drives you to work those hours and to be successful for so long, because you've been in that position where you put everything on the line, and that's what's driven you to succeed.
Like, running a business is never going to be, like a 9 to 5, but I'm hoping that that things will be a little more regular than they are right now.
Probably won't be.
We hired a documentary crew. They're going to document the whole thing. One day.